Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Welcome to the next step in our React Django build. And what we're going to do is we're going to fire up our dev server. So make sure you're in the React front end folder. So npm start. This should fire up the browser. So we're going to have the browser over there and VS Code over here. And right now it's just hello world. So what we want to do is head over to our app component because that's the only thing we got right now. And we're going to want to set up a couple folders. New folder called components. That's where we'll create individual pieces of UI. And then another folder called pages where we'll create components that'll be used as pages in our routes. Okay. And then we're going to want to import a few things. We're going to want to import route from React router DOM. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have a couple routes. Okay, so route path equals main. So that's going to be slash. And that's going to render. Generally, you should always just write your routes this way so that way you don't have to worry about refactoring them later. So it's going to render, and then here we have to pass a function. So I'm going to pass in RP for router props. You can call it whatever you want, but that's what that is. And I'm going to render login, which we haven't created yet. Okay, and then login, I'm going to pass in the router props. So pass in .RP, spread the router props, so that way it's passed in as a prop. And then we have to close the route component. And then there we go. That's always kind of a messy thing to read, but I think that now you can kind of see that line a lot clearer. So what this means that in this section, login we have to actually create login first. So I'm going to head over to my pages, create a new file called login.js. And we'll just call this import React from React. Oh, and that's another thing to keep in mind. Nowadays, Create React app doesn't import React by default because of the new Babel changes. Import React from React. But you end up still having to do it because if you want to use things like use effect and all the hooks, you gotta still end up importing React. So it's, it's forward looking, but the change in the template, not so forward looking. Okay, so back to login.js. Const login equals props. And right now we'll just always like to start off with just return h1 login just to see that it's working. Then we're going to do an export default login, and now we can import that into app. Okay, and then again, I'm assuming that you've done some React before, so I am moving kind of quick. But again, I'm not teaching you React. You're watching me how I build an app in React to put it into context. So I'm going to import that login component from /pages/login. And now that should stop erroring. So let me just refresh. And then we can see that login is rendering on the page. Good. So now I can go back to login and start building something more useful. So really I just want this for the purposes of logging in to, okay, so we're just going to create a very simple div, and we're just going to create two inputs. So input type equals text. Okay. And then we're going to call this name. This will be name username. And I'm going to use an uncontrolled form because I don't necessarily need the state to do much. Control C. Okay, wonderful. And then we're going to have a button. And the button's just going to say submit. or login. Okay, and then this will be password. And this will be of type password. So instead of using a controlled form with the handle change and all that stuff, which you've maybe seen in some of my other videos, I'm going to use refs. So I'm going to create two refs. So const username equals username equals react.useRef null, and then const password equals react.useRef null, and then we're going to pass the refs here. So ref equals username and ref equals password. Now we'll create a function to happen when you click the login button. Const handle login equals event. I'm not using a form tag, so I don't have to worry about event.prevent default, preventing a refresh. But all we want to do right now is just see that this is working. So I should be able to console.log the value of these things. So first, actually, I will grab the values. Const username, so un will equal username.current.value. And then const pw will equal password.current, because again, a ref just carries a reference to that DOM element. So it's a reference to that input. So I'm saying I want to get that current DOM element and grab the value of it. Okay, and then I want to log un and pw. So every time I fill out the form and click login, I should see the password and username I typed in printed onto the screen. So Control-Shift-I. Okay, so let's bring this down a little bit. And we'll just say Alex Cheese. Oh, and then I did not connect it to the button. So we have the function handle login, but I actually have to connect it to the button. So on click, run the handle login function. There we go. So let's try this again. Alex Cheese. And it works. Okay, good. So we know that when I click the form, I have access to the data from the form. And then the only other thing I want to do is, once I'm done with this function, I should clear out the form. So username.current.value should equal an empty string, and username or password.current.value will equal an empty string. So that way, after I hit login, it empties out the form. So now I hit login again. So you console logged again, but empties out the form. Good. So now we just need to figure out, okay, I want to make this login request. Okay, now I want to do this from app because I want to hold on to the token. Okay, I want to be able to use that token for future requests. So I need to grab that token in app. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a piece of state, and we'll just actually give this site a name. My to-do list. So we need to create it, and then the creating state should be before the return. So const the token set token equals react.use state, and it'll start out as an empty string. Okay, cool. Now we want to be able to set that token, so we're going to do a const get token. Okay, const get token, and I'm going to want to push them to another Oh well, my other route gets it, so I can do it there. So here, get token. And get token will equal an async function where we're going to pass in the password, the username and password. And it's going to make our response, going to make a fetch call equals await fetch. And now I need to get the URL. Okay, and that's here to here. Control C. But again, that's not going to be any old request because that needs to be a post request, so we have to do some other stuff. Okay, so we need to pass in a configuration object. And actually, you know what would be even better? If we did this, Control X, const URL equals, okay, and then what I can do here is I can just do URL plus. Okay, that way I can just use that same URL later on for other requests, not having to type that whole thing over and over again. And plus I can change it to localhost if I want to test it with a local server. Other cool benefit. And cool, URL API token. Now the method's going to be post. Then we have to declare the headers. The only header for this one should be content type. Application JSON. And then the body, which we need to JSON.stringify. And we're going to stringify an object with where the username equals UN and the password equals PW. Cool. Then we will get back const the data equals await response.json, and then we'll just say set token to the data. Cool, so that will do that. Control, okay, and then we're going to pass that function down to our login. So we'll just say get token equals get token. Okay, so now we have that function available inside our login.js. And now what I can do is I can do props.getToken and pass in the, let me see what order did I do this in. I pass in the username then password, so it'd be the UN and password. And then since this is has the router props, I can push them to another website, but we won't do that quite yet. So let's just make sure that this works. Okay, and I just want to add one thing here. Let's also console log data so we can see it in the console.log data, so we can see it's successful. Okay, so here's my browser. Okay, so let's type in the username we created was Alex Merced, and cheese is the password. So let's see if this works. I don't see a console log, so that is concerning. So let's go to network and see if the request was ever made. Oh. Let's see what the details say here in the network tab. That looks like the right. We sent the right information over. Password, username. Content type, application JSON, options. Any more details on the console? So we did end up getting a cores error. So we are going to have to handle cores. So we'll handle that in the next video. There should be a library to handle cores. Let's actually just do a quick search on that. Maybe we can just do it in this video. Django cores. Django cores headers. Okay. So we'll install this. Then we install that. Then you'll Django.middleware.common middleware. Origins. Let's see, a list of origins authorized to make cross-site requests defaults to an origin is defined. Let's see here. I think there's something easier. Django cores. Let's find something more recent. Django cores headers, Django cores middleware. Yeah, that is the newest. That's probably the right way to go. Okay, so what we need to do is we will configure this in the next video so that way this video doesn't get too long. I'll see you guys there.